Colonel Alcott worked on the manuscript of Isis Unveiled almost all the time, from 1875 to 1876. And those others who helped her, they didn't speak quite well English. Alcott himself had no knowledge, or little knowledge about Vedas, about the philosophy of the Aryas, and so forth. And so, he was not able to see the mistakes. And she transformed her ideas from the inside to the outside into English. He did not always see where there was a mistake. And this is why we have this lecture here. We want to correct those mistakes or to point towards them. And at the same time, neither to accuse Alcott or Blavatsky or anybody, but that was just the karma, you could say, of writing Isis Unveiled. Alcott couldn't correct what he didn't understand, and Blavatsky couldn't formulate what she understood. And there she was, 47th Street, New York, writing on Isis manuscript. And she listens to the voice that is dictating her. As I listened to the voice of the great Chauhan, who said, just sit down and write. I didn't even have the right shoes, or I had no shoes. But 1 month later, I was saved karmically, and I was able to write the Book of Light, handwritten, as you can find it on allreligionsunited.com. So mistakes in Isis Unveiled were practically pre-programmed. One of the biggest mistakes of Isis, and I mentioned it already, is the use of the term God. That was a big problem. I read here that Blavatsky asked, who is God? Who has ever seen the immortal spirit of humans, and who can therefore be sure of his own immortality? Now here I can say glory to the Book of Light and to soul breath meditation, because when you detach from everything mortal, you become again what you always were, the immortal. By that I don't mean the body, because the body is mortal, even for a master. He may live hundreds of years, thousands maybe, but then the body dies. So, the definition of immortality and of eternity was not yet clear to Blavatsky. There was another mistake that led her to the misunderstanding, misrepresentation, misuse of the term God. Because eternal means, according to occult teaching, something that, or it does not mean something that has a beginning and no end. Such a thing does not exist. But something that has no beginning and no end, that exists. This is eternal. Immortal is not something that is born and remains immortal like many religions believe. If they would study their religions, they would discover that even the Bible and the Quran do not teach such a thing. That is wishful thinking. True immortality is something that was never born and consequently can never die. And this is the real you. Who can fathom it, may fathom it. Now, to that problem of God, and I read here She writes about omnipotence and universal soul, God, and only through the spirit of man can we understand God. And she writes something very beautiful, namely that the spirit of man proves the spirit of God, like a drop of water, the presence of a well, from whence water sprung forth. That is true to a certain extent. And she writes, prove the existence of the human soul with her wonderful powers or cities, you could say, and you prove the existence of God. Now, when Blavatsky wrote that, or when she wrote Isis, she was not quite clear of the importance and of the true meaning of the term God. And always when she used that term, she actually meant, or should have meant, an impersonal, universal principle. We call it in Hinduism or in Advaita Vedantins Parabrahman. The Book of Light 2. It is the monad, resting silently in the core, in the center, reflecting periodically into material world, Mula Prakriti, into root matter. Now Blavatsky wrote herself, I'm skeptical. I had a meaning of the existence of a principle. I hoped to get from the masters true meaning of the term God. A confirmation that my soul is a drop from a limitless, unfathomable ocean. Unfathomable ocean. And she didn't want to make, like the Advaita followers do, a difference between the seventh principle and the universal, or Parabrahman. She said, my mistake was that I used in Isis Unveiled, and she said that after that was published even, to use indiscriminately the terms Parabrahman and God, to express one and the same idea. And indeed, years later it was clear that this use of the term God was a problem. The two Englishmen, A.P. Sinnett and Hume, had about 1880, they were corresponding, the teachers of Blavatsky, Mahatmas Maurya and Kodhomi. And based on those letters, Sinnett and Hume revealed certain words or teachings of the until then hidden occult teachings of the Mahatmas. And Hume wrote in 1882, with the chapter God, an essay as a preface to a presentation of the philosophy of occultism. Now the Mahatma Kodhomi and also Maurya reacted immediately. They said, neither we nor our philosophy believe in a God, and especially not in a God who is like a person and has been written in capital letters. The Book of Light teaches that the term God is a very dangerous term because it derived from the Yod, Hebrew letter, hook, which is a symbol for the male genital. See, this is how they turned Kabbalistically God into a male. If any, says the Book of Light, God is a female because we derive from a cosmic womb. The masters were not very happy with the use of that term God. And this is why we mention it here and also want to emphasize the true meaning, or how Blavatsky should have written it. The masters say that their teachings has no compromise. It says either yes or no. And it contains what is seen as truth. And the Book of Light teaches too that there's only one truth. But it has many facets. These facets are the sciences, religions, and legends of the day. And so there's no need to destroy them. There's need to unite them. The masters continue to emphasize, as philosophers and as Buddhists, we deny the existence of such a God. There are planetary spirits, there are other spiritual life forms, and so forth. But in our system, something like the God that you write about does not exist. There's neither a personal God nor an impersonal. And this is what the Book of Light teaches too. Para-Brahman is no God. It is a law. It is something that we experience here when we are in the world of manifestation as a law. I use that term law because I use words and organs that are living in this transient world of appearances. As a matter of fact, I should be silent when I talk about God. So the teaching of the Book of Light leads from thinking to non-thinking. But thoughts are the boat to cross the river from here to nirvana. Once you have reached it, you leave the boat, you don't carry it on your shoulders. Thus, we experience the truth from thinking to non-thinking. This can be experienced in meditation each day. When you repeatedly meditate each day at least half an hour, you will experience that you really are, so to speak, the mystery, the timeless eternal, the immortal. And when you will be asked, how was it, what was it, you will be unable to describe it. This is the mystery. But you're not destroyed, as I may say so, a confused person like the Dalai Lama says that you are destroyed in nirvana. Nirvana means destroyed, yes, but only what you are not is destroyed in nirvana. The transient sheaths, those are body, emotion, mind, soul, spirit, and more sheath. There are 7. And so there is also great caution when we talk about spirit in the Book of Light. Sometimes we mean the monad, the Tathagata, the being itself. And sometimes we mean the spiritual body of such a being. There's a complete difference. That sheath, that highest, you could say, refined, superfine structure